Released footage of 50 fighter jets striking the underground compound of the Ayatollah.
2.2 million Iranians have been displaced by the conflict.
Iran's capital Tehran has been bombarded by Israeli forces as the conflict escalates on two fronts in the region.
Inside Iran, Israeli strikes continuing in what they've described as a new stage of the war. Iranian officials say more than 1,300 people have now been killed.
Something catastrophic just happened beneath the mountains of Iran that the regime cannot fix. On March 7, 2026, more than 80 Israeli aircraft dropped 230 bombs on Tehran and central Iran, destroying an underground ballistic missile storage and production site from where hundreds of Iranian armed forces operated. Not just the missiles, the people operating them. Planet satellite imagery shows collapsed tunnels at Tabriz North Missile Base, indicating strikes penetrated hardened underground infrastructure. Tunnels that Iran spent decades building, billions of dollars fortifying, mountains of concrete reinforcing, collapsed. A coordinated U.S. bomber campaign featuring B-2 stealth bombers, B-1 Lancers, and B-52 Stratofortresses has allegedly collapsed major sections of Iran's underground military tunnel network. But the bombers didn't just collapse the tunnels. The strikes sealed off major tunnel entrances and destroyed ventilation shafts. No air, no way out. Iranian forces who thought they were safe underground in facilities designed to survive nuclear war just discovered those tunnels became their tombs when American bunker busters turned Iran's greatest strategic asset into a death trap. Before we reveal exactly how B-2 bombers dropped 30,000-pound bunker busters that collapsed Iran's deepest tunnel networks, why satellite imagery shows tunnel entrances sealed at sites across Iran from Tabriz to Shiraz, how destroying ventilation shafts left forces underground without air, what Iran's missile cities actually are and why they just became fatal mistakes, why missiles and launchers remain buried under thousands of tons of rubble, and how the Pentagon spent years mapping every meter of Iran's underground infrastructure to execute this systematic collapse. Make sure you're subscribed and all notifications are turned on, because what America and Israel just did by collapsing Iran's underground tunnel network that took 40 years to build is the full picture behind turning Tehran's greatest strategic advantage into a mass grave. We will. Here is what Iran built underground over 4 decades. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has released propaganda footage of an underground complex it calls Missile City, a vast network of tunnels packed with suicide drones and ballistic missiles. Not one facility, dozens of massive underground complexes scattered across Iran. For more than a decade, Iran has invested heavily in vast subterranean complexes, often called missile cities, designed to store, transport, and launch ballistic missiles, shielded beneath mountains including the Imam Ali base near Khorramabad and extensive tunnel systems near Tabriz. These aren't bunkers, they're underground cities with kilometers of tunnels, storage facilities, command centers, living quarters, all buried deep inside mountains. Think about the scale of what Iran constructed. Israeli military images of an underground tunnel complex attributed to Ali Khamenei appear to confirm long-circulating rumors of a network stretching several kilometers beneath central Tehran, under medical centers, schools, and residential neighborhoods. 5 kilometers of tunnels just for Khamenei's bunker network alone. The main tunnels, reportedly built at depths of 30 to 50 meters, are constructed of reinforced concrete with shock-absorbing foundations, and their design is not linear but broken and curved to contain the effects of blasts. 30 to 50 meters underground. That's deeper than a 15-story building is tall, with double-walled construction, blast-resistant steel doors, independent ventilation systems, emergency fuel lines, all designed to survive nuclear strikes. Now think about what these facilities cost to build. Based on construction figures, building 5 kilometers of underground tunnel would cost about 25,000 to 30,000 billion tomans, or roughly $150 to $180 million. And given the secrecy and security requirements surrounding such a project, the actual cost was likely significantly higher. That's $150 to $180 million for just 5 kilometers. And Iran built hundreds of kilometers of tunnels across dozens of sites. Under normal conditions, tunneling contractors in Tehran can excavate around 10 meters per day. And at that pace, building a 5-kilometer tunnel system would take at least 500 days. Roughly 17 months. 17 months for 5 kilometers means Iran spent decades on this network. Here is what Iran stored inside these underground cities. The video, complete with a ticking clock and endless rows of Shahed drones and rockets, was released days after the U.S.-Israeli strike that eliminated Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Thousands of drones, thousands of missiles, all underground where they thought American bombers couldn't reach them. Satellite images taken in recent days show the remains of several Iranian missiles and launchers destroyed in U.S. and Israeli airstrikes near the entrances to what Iranian officials have long called missile cities, the underground facilities where Tehran stores much of its missile arsenal. Iran's entire ballistic missile program, production facilities, storage, launchers, command centers, all buried underground. Think about why Iran built everything underground. What used to be mobile and difficult to locate is now less mobile and easier to strike, said Sam Lair, a researcher at the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies in California. Iran chose permanent underground facilities over mobile launchers because they thought the tunnels were invulnerable. Missiles can be tracked and destroyed on the surface, but underground complexes can survive anything. That calculation just proved catastrophically wrong. Now think about what America did to find these tunnels. Modern reconnaissance technology has made it much easier to detect underground objects, and satellites orbiting thousands of kilometers in space, combined with high-tech sensors and artificial intelligence, can even detect activities going on underground. American spy satellites using synthetic aperture radar can detect voids and tunnels underground. When these waves hit a void, tunnel, or bunker underground, their reflection pattern changes, and scientists analyze this change to infer the location of underground structures. Radar penetrates earth and rock. Underground facilities show up as anomalies in reflection patterns. Here's how else America mapped the tunnels. When machines operate inside an underground bunker, this heat slowly reaches the surface, and satellite infrared sensors detect this abnormal temperature on the ground surface. Thermal imaging from space, computers running, people working, ventilation systems operating inside tunnels, all generate heat that infrared satellites detect at night when surrounding ground cools. When tunnels or bunkers are built inside mountains, blasting, drilling, and heavy machinery cause ground vibrations, and global seismic sensor networks record these vibrations. Iran spent decades excavating tunnels. Every blast, every drilling operation, every construction vibration was recorded by seismic sensors. Think about what this means. According to the report, the Pentagon and the IDF have spent years mapping Iran's underground missile infrastructure. Years. America knows where every tunnel is, how deep it goes, where the entrances are, where ventilation shafts are located. Complete maps of facilities Iran thought were secret. Now here's what America dropped on those tunnels. A trio of very large impact points raises the possibility that the hardened facility was hit by 30,000-pound GBU 57/B massive ordnance penetrator bunker buster bombs. 30,000 pounds, 15 tons per bomb. The GBU 57 is a precision-guided penetrator system optimized for hard and deeply buried targets such as bunkers and tunnels. The largest bunker buster bomb ever built, designed specifically to destroy what Iran just buried underground. Think about what these bombs can do. The GBU 57 can plow through at least 60 meters, 200 feet of earth before detonating, according to the American military. 60 meters of earth! That's deeper than Iran's tunnels at 30 to 50 meters. The bomb penetrates past the tunnel, then detonates inside the mountain. The explosion doesn't need to reach the tunnel from above. It detonates inside the rock surrounding the tunnel, causing catastrophic structural collapse. Here is what actually delivered these weapons. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers dropped 14 MOPs against Iran's deeply buried nuclear facilities at Fordow and Natanz during Operation Midnight Hammer. And the only aircraft currently certified to carry MOPs operationally is the B-2 bomber, with each one being able to carry 2 of the massive bombs at a time. B-2s flying missions from Missouri to Iran and back, 20-hour round trips carrying 2 15-ton bombs per aircraft. Now think about what happened when the bombs hit. Planet satellite imagery shows collapsed tunnels at Tabriz North Missile Base, indicating strikes penetrated hardened underground infrastructure. Collapsed tunnels, not damaged, collapsed. Images taken the following day showed signs of heavy bombing near several entrances to the underground complex, and debris consistent with bunker-penetrating munitions was visible around the tunnel entrances, though it was unclear whether the tunnels themselves had collapsed. Satellite imagery confirmed collapsed tunnels at Tabriz, tunnel entrances buried under rubble. Here are the other sites that were hit. In total, analysts reviewing satellite imagery identified signs of strikes or structural damage at underground missile facilities in multiple locations across Iran, including near Tabriz, Korgo Haji Abad, and Jam. Multiple sites across the country, not one or two facilities, but systematic targeting of Iran's entire underground network. Satellite images suggest that a cluster of missile facilities near the southern city of Shiraz has been struck several times. Shiraz hit multiple times, repeated strikes to ensure complete collapse. Think about what happened to forces inside when tunnels collapsed. The strikes sealed off major tunnel entrances and destroyed ventilation shafts, leaving forces trapped underground without air or communication. Sealed entrances, thousands of tons of rock and concrete blocking exits. Destroyed ventilation, no fresh air reaching underground. On March 7, 2026, more than 80 Israeli aircraft dropped 230 bombs on Tehran and central Iran, destroying an underground ballistic missile storage and production site from where hundreds of Iranian armed forces operated. Hundreds of Iranian forces operating underground when 230 bombs collapsed the facility. Here is what this means for Iran's missile capability. Waves of heavy bombers have dropped munitions on some of the sites, in some cases damaging entrances and potentially trapping Iranian weapons underground. Not just forces trapped, missiles and launchers buried under rubble. The strikes achieved a temporary neutralization by targeting tunnel entrances and access points, causing collapses that trapped launchers, missiles, and crews inside underground tunnels. Launchers, missiles, and crews all trapped together inside collapsed tunnels. Think about whether Iran can recover what's buried. A significant portion of the launchers were not permanently destroyed, but rather buried or blocked in the tunnels, requiring substantial engineering efforts by Iranian forces to reopen and extract them. The equipment isn't destroyed, it's buried under thousands of tons of collapsed tunnel. Iranian engineering forces repeatedly attempted to reopen sealed tunnel entrances, prompting follow-up strikes to prevent reactivation. Iran tries to dig out entrances. America strikes again to recollapse them. Now think about what America is doing to keep the tunnels sealed. U.S. and Israeli fighter jets and armed drones are now flying above dozens of the underground missile bases and striking launchers as soon as they emerge from tunnels to fire. Constant surveillance, drones orbiting every known tunnel entrance waiting for any activity. With much of Iran's air defense network degraded, the United States and Israel are able to keep surveillance aircraft flying over known missile bases and strike quickly with fighter jets or armed drones when activity is detected. No air defenses left means American drones can orbit indefinitely. Any attempt to clear entrances gets immediately struck. Here is what Iran lost by building everything underground. Analysts told the newspaper that a significant portion of Iran's remaining missile stockpile, including thousands of short and medium-range missiles, likely remains stored in underground bases whose locations are largely known to the U.S. and Israeli militaries. Thousands of missiles still exist, buried in tunnels America knows the locations of and can strike whenever Iran tries to access them. Iran's entire missile arsenal just became unusable because it's trapped underground in facilities with collapsed entrances under constant surveillance. What happens to forces trapped underground in collapsed tunnels with destroyed ventilation and sealed entrances? Can Iran excavate thousands of tons of rubble while American drones strike any clearing attempts? Will Iran's entire missile arsenal remain buried and unusable in facilities designed to protect them? And if it takes 17 months to build 5 kilometers of tunnel, how many decades to rebuild the network America just collapsed? Stay tuned.